We are live. Let's see. Let me get this tweeted out here. Here we go. Hope everybody had an awesome trading day today. It's the first trading day back of the week after a little bit of a market holiday weekend. So quite an interesting day today. Right now, futures are pretty flat. As the futures market is recently opened. Let's see. Let's take a look at the SPX and just see how things went today. Pretty amazing day, really. It was we've just got off of I mentioned on the video yesterday. Clayton kind of brought to our attention that we've had 11 up days on the chart. If I can get to it here, you can always right click and just do auto zoom. I'll do that, auto zoom, and then just zoom in into this mess over here. Let's see what we got going on. Okay, yeah, it was a little bit of ways away. So we had about 11 days, right, of straight green going on since the bit of a pullback after the reversal, right? So could be a 1, 2, maybe we put a 3, and we just put in a 4 here, sort of at this cloud bottom, and maybe pushing up for a 5. Has yet to be determined. But we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Super extended right there. Green days in a row, right? And so you'd expect to have at least some sort of pullback after that, right? I mean, even here after these big moves, huge big moves, you get a red day, right? So you'd at least expect that. Honestly, I think probably maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3. So we might, a little bit red tomorrow, then kind of might chop up a little bit higher there, and then, then we'll see what we have after that. So, just because I think the major part of this move is, is running into a bunch of resistance, right? And so let's take a look at why, right? So let me go to the let me go to the daily chart here, right? As we talked about yesterday, and every day we kind of start off just looking at where we're at. So we had the channel, right, through basically all 2018, right? And we saw that from the double top high, right, we had an impulsive wave down, which would have been a wave 1, and then ABC2, right? Nice textbook stuff, and then potential wave 3 here, right? And then we thought we were working on a wave 4 as it was slowing down around this 38.2%. This is a great place to consider going short, right? The only thing that was really out of characteristic of a wave 4, is the sharpness of the reversal, right? So that's just something to keep in mind, right? See this wave 2, right? It was like A, B, C, nice and slow compared to the impulsive move down, right? A wave 4, right, is not an impulsive wave, right? So I mean, even a zigzag, is still is not going to give you this type of huge move, right? So the type of speed that it went up was not characteristic of a wave 4 altogether, but hey, we got to go with what we got to go. So, what I was talking about yesterday is we're probably looking at maybe more of like an ABC correction right here, which wouldn't surprise me at all. Like I said, the market likes to fake out as many people as possible, right? And so, and it's really good at doing that, right? So we thought it was a wave 4. Look, it was curling over here, failed, and then kind of like broke through there, right? And then got to this, let me expand this to the right here, to the right? Got to this channel line. Tried to and pivoted here right at this median line, pitchfork median line. Looked like it was possibly going to roll over. Would have been a decent wave 4. I mean, a little extended at the 50% range. Didn't do it again. Got to the channel and then broke through. And then as you can see now, we are rejecting that area. And I think I proposed this yesterday, is that maybe right. So this is wave 1, 2, and maybe this is just wave 1 of 3 for a huge impulsive move down, or right. We could just be in a corrective pattern right here, right? So this is maybe wave, a corrective pattern of this first wave down of wave 3. So we'll see. I mean, we really just have to see what it's going to do. But my kind of theory is that we potentially have this wave B here that maybe takes out these lows, and gets a lot of bulls in, then pivots again at our pitchfork level here around 22, and then comes back up again to retest this area, right? And so, and then very possibly after that could be I said here, this is wave 1, that could be your wave 2, and then we could have a huge wave 3 down. So, so we just have to see, right? I mean, honestly, there's still a lot of folks out there, buying the dip, and there's a lot of headlines out there, kind of bullish and everything. So, but there's more bearish type stuff starting to come out, right? Out of the economic forums, things like that are, saying, hey, maybe things aren't so great, right? I mean, even, China with their worst economic slowdown since 1990. I mean, no trade, no trade deal, and then maybe trade deal. I don't know. Today was a little bit crazy with that, but so I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that could make this stuff potentially, do this, right? And so keep in mind, we'd probably look for a wave B down and probably be like a 1, 2, 3. It wouldn't be, a straight move down. Or like, this could have been a zigzag. This is a very sharp move, right? So this could have been a really long zigzag. We could ABC down and then have another zigzag up here, and then we'll be like, okay, where are we? We're at the top of the pitchfork here. Do we reverse there and go back down for a longer wave 3? Or was this just a quick correction of a longer, long term uptrend? I don't know. We'll see. But we just have to go with our technical indicators and see what the best scenarios are that we have to work with, and kind of go from there. And so that's kind of the overall view of the market there. Other than that, some great news today from the $50,000 challenge. Although I got out of Starbucks a little while ago, a bunch of you got held, and which I really appreciate. Not only you having better patience than me, but also because you lose sight of stuff, right? And that's one of the great parts about journaling. If you've got a journal in front of you, you can make notes to yourself every 2 weeks to go back and look at stocks that you took your eyes off of, things like that, right? And so let me just kind of go back to the Starbucks, right? So originally this looked like a wave 3 top, right? And so expected a wave 4 correction. It kind of counted out this 335 flat, right? So 335. The first 3 is ABC 3, ABC 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was your flat correction there. So wave 4 done, right? And right now it's kind of proven like it is, right? And so what do you do after wave 4? You work on wave 5. Wave 5 is an impulsive wave, and so it's 5 waves, which means it's 5 waves up. So we had 1, right? This first wave here. This is originally where I was like thinking about getting long, and I was like, oh, I'll wait for the pullback, and then it pulled back to like 61.50, which was near perfect, and but then I made this ascending triangle, right? And ascending triangles only occur in wave 4 or wave B, right? Or triangles only occur in wave 4 or wave B. I think they can occur in like wave X or something like that, but for the most part, just think wave 4 and wave B. So here's a wave B, right? So here's a wave 1, A, B. Well, the problem with this that I had was like, okay, where's C? It's got to be below it. And then Goldman Sachs downgraded Starbucks, right? And they delivered it to us, right to us right here. And we did the 15 orb off of that, and I still have the orange line that represents where that 15 orb is. And then, I went long, and my first target was 65. And I really thought it was going to be, but it's like really choppy. And look, you can see even here, it pulled back. I mean, you guys that held through this, I'm just so amazed and impressed. Now, granted, it was better than our entry, but when you're, a vertical spread would have been, more ideal for that target. We talked about the vertical spreads yesterday. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm losing all my premium on this chopping around, and then boom, you get that spike that you needed, right? So this was, like 1, 2, 3, possibly A, B, C, 4. And boom, we just had our wave 5 up right there, and now we'll see what type of correction it does. And that did pretty good. I mean, this hit a high of 66.21. That was good. I mean, 66, 67 was my original thought, right? And of course, potentially testing the upper end of this pitchfork. And with earnings coming up in 2 days, it may actually do that. Right? It almost looks like it's building up to do that. So, I mean, don't gamble into earnings. You can try a lotto if you want to, type thing. But, one of the things, if you guys had like multiple, calls on it. So if you sell out some of those and you have one that's a freebie, you could let it run and see if it takes you up there. If you lose it, you still made enough profit on your other calls where you're okay. So that's just just kind of an example there of one that kind of came through, and also kind of wanted it also touches on the 15 orb. We'll get to that today. So Netflix, let me talk about that real quick. So Netflix was a 30 orb today, right? Because they had earnings the other day. So today was day 2 off of earnings, and so on the day 2, using the 30-minute orb is a very conservative way to allow it to get its direction. And you can see it was helpful, right? Because that first 30 minutes was pretty crazy, right? I mean, it did, it opened, obviously it was gapping down, open, pushed up, hit this 30-minute mid-Bollinger Band, by the way, and then kind of came down, this kind of paused out. So there's your entry right there. So for anybody who's joining who's new to the orbs, right? You just kind of see how I drew that line right there. That's your level, right? There's 2 levels. It could go. That's a little hard to see. Let me remove that. There's 2 levels, right? is the upper part of the orb. So if like this ended up being green and breaking to the upside, right, you've had a nice move to the upside potentially that way, or you trade it to the downside, and this would have taken some patience, right? But in general, the market was pretty weak, and so here 328, would have been an entry. You could have entered here, would have pulled back on you, but if you were confident enough, in the trade, could potentially have held, and then when it finally broke, you had a nice move here to the downside, and it never looked back over here. So 328 to 321. Now, don't get me wrong, this is tough. I mean, this is an 8-point bar, so if you got your stop sitting up here the whole time, you're biting your nails, you don't know what kind of risk reward to have, and it turned out to be 1-to-1 and turned out to be successful, so, but that's just I'm not saying they're easy to trade, right? But it never really got past the 50% mark of that bar. So really, if you kept it there, you're talking about like a 4-point risk, which maybe is not too bad. You get one put that's worth $400. There's your 4 points right there. You're probably not going to lose the whole premium if you get stopped out. And then boom, it goes down, maybe doubles or something like that. So you make $400 or $500 in the trade. And of course more or less depending on your risk tolerance, right? So that was Netflix. Facebook. Bunch of you guys managed your trade better than I did. It was fun. I was looking at this as a 15 orb today. And why did I look at the 15 orb today? Because on Friday late in the day, they basically there was news that came out that Facebook was getting sued by the government, fined by the government, some Europe, I don't know, getting in trouble, right, for their being a horrible company and selling our data. But basically it looked interesting today because this 15-minute orb right here was pretty big, right? Now you could have traded it to the upside, but the general sentiment was negative, right? Because the market was negative, so that's got to leave you suspect here, and so you could have scalped it. And here's an example that we talked about. I know Daniel, you wanted me to talk about the inside 15, and so here's your first 15. Here's your orb, right? This one went inside, right? And then there, it broke to the upside, and granted, this would have been a decent scalp, right? So 150.59 all the way up to 151.53. So you could have made almost a full point off of that break. So there's your inside 60 break to the downside, right? And then later, you had this inside. You could. Anyway, here's the orb right here. So I entered on a different strategy today, assuming that the 15 orb would be taken out eventually. So I got in a little bit early before the 15 orb broke, but why did I do that? Well, the reason is, let me show you, where did we close yesterday? Let me put a line up for that 1 second. All right, so we close right here. And I know there's a tool in Thinkorswim to do that. It's good. But let me just put that right there. All right, so let's go to the 15. So that was your close yesterday, just to kind of give you something to look at. All right. And where did it go? That was the wrong day. Sorry, guys. All right, let's assume we closed here, which we did, right? There. Okay. So there's the level. Okay, so the one technique, and you see a lot of traders like Option Sniper does it sometimes. If you catch some of his trades, if you're not watching the price, sometimes he does do, like he did Tesla the other day. That huge Tesla break to the downside was a green to red trade, and so here you're green, right? And then you just wait for the trade, meaning you're positive from where you closed the other day. You just wait to go red. So that's what I was looking to take advantage of today, and then hoping to trigger the orb to the downside, right? And so I basically got in here, right, and held it, pretty well, through there, and everything's going fine. It only moved up a little bit. I set my stops at the high of the day, 151.53. No big deal. And and then it finally worked, right? So it came up here and then finally broke, and then started to push, right? And so as it started to push, I was like, okay, I think I got in at like I got in late, unfortunately, just because of life is what it is, right? I think I got it at like 149, whatever it was, like somewhere where it was like 149.40, right? And so so basically when it came down here, had a nice push to the downside. Everything was profitable, and at that point I was like, all right, well, let's progressively lower our stops. And then as we're in the 148 around this area, the 148.80s, probably came over here, right? I was like, all right, I'll just move it to 149, like 11. What I should have done is done it at the high of this bar. This is tough sometimes from the phone, right? So I was like, that seemed like a good number. I said, because I didn't want it to get over 149. I was like, let me give it 11 cents. Probably should have given it 21 cents, and honestly, probably should have given it like 50 cents, because I was expecting the trade to work. And so ultimately it did, and gave some nice follow through the downside. And a lot of you guys capitalized on that, which is awesome. You managed the trade better than I did. I just didn't want to go. Once I was green, I was like, doing, putting a lot, all this stuff out publicly. Once it's green, I don't want to go red, right? I don't want to have a losing trade, right? So, it got me. It tagged me out, and obviously it didn't tag me out of my option, but I had to do it just to, because I put the stop out there. I was like, let me take it. And I did, and it chopped around, kind of that area for a little bit, and then it just broke to the downside. So, really gave an awesome trade today, and I'm happy you guys made some good money off of that. So that's awesome. But that just kind of shows you the 15 orb. So we talked about the 15 orb. We talked about the inside 15, Daniel. How that went inside, and Justin really made a good point on his statistics that they do work. He said 0% risk. Obviously, there's risk. He's saying that they work basically almost 100% of the time with his back testing, right? So, and this would have worked too. You would have made a point here, definitely after a point, or even 50 cents. It's a good spot to move a stop up, right? And then and you'd have been good to go there. So, so I just kind of gave Facebook was great because it was on the game plan for the 15-minute orb, and it looked interesting, right? Because Netflix was definitely on the list. I missed it. Didn't even think to trade it in my personal account either, and I was just like, I missed it. And I was like, why is Facebook up, right? And so when everything else is going down, and I'm like, there's no reason Facebook. That's the kind of just the reasoning behind it, right? I was like, there's no reason that Facebook should be up. I mean, it doesn't really have any good news coming out. In fact, it just got some really bad news the other day, So this is gonna be short-lived, right? And so, and it was, and so that's ultimately what happened there. So real quick, I want to go over one strategy, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, because yesterday we went over verticals, and I had a quick question about straddle versus strangle, and there's two different there are two different scenarios. So I'm just going to talk about the straddle today on the options, right? And really, it's really simple. It's basically just saying, I think this stock is going to move, right? I don't know which way, but it's in a position, whether it's at key resistance or support, right? It's in a position where I think it's going to move, and I think it's going to move more than the cost, right, of the call plus the put, okay? And so, and on top of that, my, and you see how I always plot this implied volatility, and my implied volatility is relatively low, okay? Those are key, all right? And so, automatically, right here, you can just look at the implied volatility. Is this implied volatility relatively low? And you can just look at it and see it is not, right? There's no sense in using using percentages, right? You just have to look at relative implied volatility, okay? That's the best way to do it. So, and you can look at it at different time scales. So here, so Facebook's really not, the best example to do here, and it makes sense that the volatility is going up because you've got earnings coming up too, right? So it gets a big volatility run there. Something like Netflix though should have a relatively low volatility. Well, today it might have gone up because it was puking, but you can see after it had earnings, right? This is why options are worth nothing right after earnings, right? So you get this huge vol drop, right? Because right before it, right, there's all this volatility priced into it, drives the premium up of your options, and then after the earnings come out, right, it just drops, right? So now, right now, Netflix premium is relatively low because of implied volatility, right? So everything's kind of resetting and pricing itself. So Netflix is an excellent one to trade, and also a good one to look for potential straddles. And so just to kind of show you, I know this is really messy, but let me go to the daily chart then, or even the hourly chart, right? And so after earnings, right? So now we had a situation here that basically we had an extended fifth wave, right? And this could have been 1, 2, and might be working on 3, but right now it's pulling back. And so it is possible that this was the fifth wave up. I haven't relabeled it yet. And then we're working on a corrective wave right now. So I was thinking like maybe A, B, C, something like that, right? And so once we get to the point where we can label, I'm not going to say do a straddle right now, but let's say, let's say we pull back, let's say we go A, and then we go B, right? So when we come back here, right, depending what this A is, right, we like to trade wave C, right? And so wave C, is most likely going to go down, right? So we're looking A, B, C, and then we'll look for maybe another move, push to the upside, right? But if I'm wrong, right, and it's not an ABC, and it turns out that this was really just one long impulsive wave up, and this was a wave 2, so A, B, right, and it might have been, maybe the wave count's wrong here. So once we get back to this level, right, this 350, 354 level, we would anticipate that there would be a move after that, right? Whether it's continuing, going to do an impulsive wave 3 to the upside, or whether wave C is going to go and take us to the downside, right? So, and we have a couple points of reference that we could work with, right? And so, so we have this level was the median pitchfork, right? So if everything's all great and hunky-dory, right, we might go up to 425, right? And so that's 75 point move over the course of however long, over a month, potentially, right? Depending where we're at, and then, or it could give you a wave C. Remember, we want to trade wave 3, wave 5, and wave C, okay? Because those give you the best moves, the best bang for your buck, right? And so to show you how to do it, so what do we do with the straddle? So we don't know which direction it's going to go, but we know it's going to go, right? And so so what you do is you just buy a call and you buy a put at the same strike price, same strike, and the same date. And so it's really easy to do. You can do it in Thinkorswim. Now I think you wouldn't need margin to do that because you're just buying one of each. So you could actually construct your own straddle just by buying the call and buying the put. So that is interesting to know. So let's just take a look. So let's just say right now Netflix. Let's just say we expected to move $75 by February 15th, right? Okay. So if we expect to move $75, as long as let's say like we're at 325 now. So as long as these 325s, as long as the cost of these two, so you're 15 and you're 16, right? It's going to be about $30, right? As long as that's less than $75, then you might have yourself a trade, right? Now, granted, it's expensive, right? So if you have 500, we can't do this in our our $500 account, But if you're really anticipating a move, we get back to that level, right? And it's $30, and you're expecting it to move at least $75 before expiration, then you've got a chance here to make good money, right? And so in this case, like $50, so $5,000 off of a $3,000 investment, right? And so let's take a look at this and just show you what it looks like on the analyzer, right? So we right-click on that, we click Analyze Trade, we go to our risk profile, so we click here if you don't have it pulled up already, and this shows here that this is a straddle. This is what a straddle. We looked at the vertical. It was basically saying I lose if I'm down here, I make a little bit of money if I'm in between, and I make money if I'm up there, right? And it's the same if you have the puts, right? I lose money if I'm here, I make a little bit of money here, and I make my money here, right? Well, in this case, this is the straddle is a perfect pivot right at your strike price. Okay, so you start to make money, right, as it goes up, right, or you start to make money as it goes down. So, you're just saying, hey, it's gonna do it. So here you can see right over here, over 450, over $25, or this area, you start to break even, right? And then you can see if we move that $75 like we were thinking, say it gets up to 425, then you would anticipate making, like I said, this is saying $6,000, right? So use a different calculation method, but the general rule of thumb is just add the difference between the two, and is where you should be, as long as you can get there before expiration, right? And you can even play around with Thinkorswim too. You can change the dates. So let's say in February, it's February 5th, right? So we take a look at that, and then let's say the volatility. Let's say it dropped 50 points, so it dropped to 275, and let's say the volatility went up 20% somewhere in February because it dropped down so much, right? So volatility went up. So now you can look and see where you're at, And this is exactly where you'd be at if you wanted to close this, right? So you'd be up. In this case, you're at 275. It shows you where you are, right? Puts you right in the middle. And in this case, if you close it here on that date, and it shows you there 2.5, the purple line shows you where you'd be at there. You can close your trade and make $2,000. Okay. So you didn't double or anything like that, but you still made $2,000 on a move that was $50, right? And you're anticipating a $75 move. So do you take profit there? Sure, why not, right? So it just depends on what the market is. So we'll keep an eye on this, right? For Netflix, I might, just post this from the personal. Hopefully, maybe our $500 account will be up enough where we can do something like that. But you can see there that if we and B, back to this median line, then I think at that point we would either expect a wave C to the downside, or maybe I've miscounted it, and we're just going to do another impulsive move up to the top of the pitchfork level. So, but you could see even if it goes to the middle of the pitchfork level, you still make $2,000 right off of that. So this is a great one to watch. It's a good one too because the volatility is relatively low because it's just after earnings, right? The only thing you got to be aware of is if it really just starts puking for a while, and then that's the only problem with options sometimes. When although it's fun to short, the volatility goes up, right? The implied volatility goes up as they go down, right? So that's the main things to think about there. So so we reviewed orbs. We showed some of the examples from the game plan today. Johnson & Johnson, I just wanted to take a look at that one real quick. I never got to see this one. So these Dow stocks are so annoying unless there's big news that comes out. Here we go. I did it. I did it this time. Let me click that, maximize sell. Hopefully, okay, so you can at least see it. You can see he's not even tradable today off of Johnson & Johnson. I mean, it's just nasty. It's a huge 15-minute orb, right, and never broke to the upside or the downside, completely contained by the orb. But it kept you safe, right? So, you didn't have to deal with it at that point. But you had an inside 15, right? You could have traded that inside 15 to the downside, right? And that would have worked. So 128 down to 128.13. So you'd have made 50 cents on this currently boring stock right now. It was awesome though when they when the report came about what bunch of monsters they are out there, poisoning our kids. But why it's even close to up, I have no idea. So, but it should continue to get beat up over time. So that's it. So we look at the 15 orbs. We look at the inside 15 orb and how successful that can be in terms of relative success. And then we reviewed straddles and kind of some option ideas there. So at this point, if anybody has any chart requests or questions, please put them in the chat window, and I will get to those. And so just try to keep your chart requests to 5 or so we can get done. And then real quick though, before I do that, I had a DM earlier. Harvey couldn't make it this evening because he's busy. And we all, of course, wish him the best. So he asked for 2. He wanted to look at Square. So let me let's see how Square looks. Oh man, I got just demolished there today. Let's see. Remember, right-click auto zoom. See where we're at. Okay, let me go to. Let's just take a look overall real quick. Let's look at the monthly. Monthly still inside month on this guy. Inside week so far, right? But it's not the full week yet. Had a huge move up out of the weekly cloud. It is now facing some resistance at the mid BB, the mid Bollinger Band, which is pointing down, right? And we've got it so far. We're I know it's yellow here, but it's just we're inside, but we're red so far on the week. So look for it to retrace a little bit. May even get down to this 63 level. And keep in mind, Square is a tough one to trade. The daily got into the cloud, right? Hit your upper Bollinger Band, and is now coming down and testing the lower end of the cloud and also the top of the pitchfork range. So basically, if you can get below 65 and get you back in the pitchfork, your next target 50 moving average here at 64. If you can get below that, you've got 60, and then you can get below that, you've got nice pitchfork resistance here at the median line. With I've got a secondary cloud below it too, so some resistance here. So it's potential for it to continue down. There. And then I think it was tough. I think we had a wave count on it that we were working on. 1 ABC 2 1 2 was looking for a 3. but this could be just an expanded flat, or extended complex correction here. So flat, but nice pivot here today. So if it gets under, like I said, if it gets under 65, I would look for some more downside movement there. Also wanted to see stamps.com. So, gosh, that thing is getting up over some volumetric resistance here. So just look at this 170 as potential support. It went from 285 all the way down to 141. And then, so it may actually be bottoming here. You could be working on sort of an impulsive wave up. So 1, 2, this could be your 3. Look for a potential pullback 4, even if it gets below that volumetric, kind of support area, and then another spike up. And that could be either a potential zigzag, so that would be 5, and then maybe look for a 3-wave structure down, and then another zigzag up. So, but yeah, if it pulls back below, I would, let's just say here, let's just say this is wave 3. Give it to 38.2, potential pullback to like this 166, 167 area, and then to look for some further upside movement. And if it does, it might fill this gap for you. So that could be interesting. So, and earnings coming up too at the end of February. So those are those. Let's see what we got going on, guys. Let me jump in the chat window here. Matt, what's going on, my friend? Good to see you. Jordan, how are you? Yeah, I know, exactly. Paul, what's going on, man? Good to see you, man. Appreciate the hookup on that. You should post that to your Twitter feed. The visual guide to Elliott Wave is cool. Merritt, what's going on, man? Kyle, how are you? I know, yeah, crazy ending today. Crazy day. I mean, these have been some pretty wild days, right? So you got to be be careful out there. So Manoj, what's going on, man? I think I saw you on Twitter today. So cool. Good to meet you. Good to see you. Chris, what's going on, man? All right, BSX and Microsoft. Let's see what we got. So BSX is good old Boston Scientific. Let's see what kind of action it's got going on. Oh, okay, nothing recorrect here. Yeah, kind of funky, right? Definitely almost looks like a megaphone. Pretty good on the. This looks like a real kind of megaphone structure going on here, right? So so just watch how it's kind of expanding through this. This is a type of triangle, so it might be working on a huge like extended wave 4 or something like that. But just keep an eye here. I mean, it's got some resistance areas here volumetrically, and then which would also correspond to the top of this megaphone. So watch if it comes up here and then starts to kind of work its way down. Trying to see if there's anything else interesting. Let's look at the your clouds. Yes, your weekly. I mean, it's still overall pretty strong. But I wouldn't be surprised, if you saw a pullback even after earnings back to this cloud area, just to kind of keep it in line. Inside day though, so remember you got an inside day there, so that could give you some directional bias tomorrow if it breaks that. It's also a pretty narrow range too, 60 cents, not super narrow range. Only a couple days ago it was 40, but it did give you an inside day, so that could give you a potential reversal point. And Microsoft. Hopefully Microsoft does well. One of my buddies is in it right now, I think. So hopefully that does well for him. The IBM news should be pretty good to these kind of more conservative names. IBM spiking up pretty good. That's on the 15 orb list for tomorrow. So we'll see if that gets any follow through on that. Microsoft right now is, we had that hanging man day right at the upper Bollinger Band here, right? And so as it turns out, it did reverse off of that, came down to the 50 moving average and bounced off of that. So not a huge range today, but pretty decent. So it came down, give you a holy grail setup to the upside potentially. It's just got to get through that resistance there to see if it can push. But I do like how the upper Bollinger Band is pointing up and the mid is pointing up too. Weekly. Obviously it recently tested over these kind of last lows the other days, like a couple weeks ago, right? Came up real good. Inside week right now at the mid Bollinger Band level there. So key levels are going to be breaking out over 107.90, right? And then of course it could break to the downside too. So watch that. But nice golden cross about to happen here. I know it's hard to see. Let me zoom in. Nice golden cross about to happen on the 5 and 10 MA. So this green line here is about to cross over the 10, and that is bullish for the stock. So with IBM, decent numbers. You can see it's kind of, I don't know if it's really up after hours, but it's doing something, right? And there you go. Your 30-minute was kind of gave you a reversal there too. So so there's Microsoft. Shirley, what's going on? Oh, I know, Ashwin. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's just total, what is it, market manipulation. But we can't be surprised by that, right? I mean, this market is no longer what it used to be, but they've been doing these shenanigans ever since the market was around. So it does stink though when everything's looking good and you're in the trade and it's going your way, especially if you're at a pattern, you're at a pattern day trade limit. You just want to get out, and then it reverses on you. And that's why I got out of Facebook as early as I did. I mean, it's just, you just never know these days. And it's hard to see unless you have a bunch of screens in front of you. It's to see what's kind of globally going on with it. That's why it's real nice to be able to sit down at the desk and be able to see what's happening on the weekly, the daily, and then your 15 orb versus your hourly kind of levels and stuff like that. But yeah, it is a little bit frustrating when they do that stuff, but it can be fun too. So you got to give it that as well. Barrett, what's going on? KPAC said everything is told by the chart about today market. Yeah, he did. Dude, KPAC's a man, obviously. His charts are really clean and really nice. And so I believe he showed he was charting like the ES, but let's just look at SPX. I think on probably a lower time frame, he was talking about, and KPAC, if you're listening, man, sorry for messing up your charts, right? But he had like kind of a wedge kind of coming up today, and I think he was looking at the 30, and he was looking at probably like a longer term. I can't get too many days on here. Let's just go 10 days on that. He had the kind of like a longer term channel here. Let's say he had, I know guys it's really sloppy, but he had like a trend line that was kind of coming up. I don't know exactly where he had it, but it was upward trending or whatever the case was, and then it broke below it, and then it finally broke down, and then he showed there at the end of the day, if you go to the 5-minute chart, right, that there was a like a fallen wedge type pattern, right, and however he did it, it was like something like this, right, and so he's basically saying, hey, watch out. There's some divergences going on here, and the divergences probably would have been like MACD or RSI. So let me throw an RSI on here and just see what it looked like on the shorter time frame, so you guys can just kind of get an idea. So you have here on the 5-minute RSI, you've got bullish divergence there, right? So you can see before all the kind of the news like kind of came out, right, that the chart kind of said everything, right? So based on the way it was, the way you had it. So hopefully that helps a little bit. You could always ask him too. Clayton, what's going on, man? I know, man. Yeah, SPX levels are working great, man. You're doing awesome with that. So one day we're gonna have to get you dialed in here so you can show that technique. Elijah, what's going on? Keep us away the 15 orb and 30 orb. Sorry, I'm new to channels. Oh, no problem, man. Welcome. Glad to have you. Hopefully that made sense of everything I showed earlier, but real quick. The orb is the opening range bar, right? And then after it breaks, the orb is the opening range break, right? So if I say orb during the day, as I'm talking about, look at that 15-minute orb, the first bar, and then look at where it broke. So here on the SPX, you can see there's a 15 orb here, right? And so draw like a trend line right here, or just a price line. And you can see where it broke down, and then basically after it broke down there, it never went above it. This was a great one to trade off of it, but yeah, it just kind of went down there. So it's a great way to get not to be worried about trading the open so much. Wait for the first 15 minutes for all the people who are trying to establish, all the bulls and bears and computers that are trying to establish price direction, to fight it all out there, and then just take advantage of it afterward, right? They draw lines, right? The lines here, this is the line in the sand for the for the bears and the bull, it's the line in the sand for the bears. They're saying like, hey, if it goes above this, I'm out. This is the line in the sand for the bulls. If it goes below that, I'm out, right? And so if that breaks, bears win. If that breaks, bulls win, right? And so and the same with the 30. I do the 15 on the first day of major news on a big gap. So earnings is a great example for that, and 30 for the second day, because usually it takes a little bit longer you don't get as much crazy volume. So give it the first 30 minutes for it to establish direction on day 2, and then on day, so you can see if this were day 2, you just follow that 30-minute orb to the downside. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But definitely check out my pinned tweet on Twitter because it goes over a lot of that. Bargav, what's going on? Cost looks. Let's go back and look at Costco, because I took my eyes off of it when I switched over to Fang. It was on our list to the short side, of course. Golly, because wow, up to 215. Goodness gracious. I'm glad I didn't short it back then. I would have been stopped out a long time ago. So money saved right there, right? So let's go to the hourly here and just see. The analysis got too complicated, and I was trying to be bearish on it, and then we had this. Oh, look here, we were just talking about the megaphone formation. Here's your megaphone BC wave 2, right? Maybe this is wave 3 now. 1, 2, 3, ish. Maybe just 1, 2, and still working on wave 3. So no, I would say probably not ready to short yet. I want to see it get closer to this pitchfork range and look for a pivot up there. And then there's also this gap up here too, right? So we'll see how much it wants to fill that gap. So I don't think it's ready to short yet. Costco's, tough one to short, but it's still working on this this impulsive retractive move back, and I think it's got more to go. I don't think this is the end of wave 5. To me, it looks like maybe 1, 2, and then we'll get another push up, 3, 4. Maybe 5 will fill that gap, and then we could look to see a reversal on it. Costco's a strong stock and a strong company too, right? I mean, it's you got to watch out for it. It's a tough one to short. So it was easy to short on earnings. That was a great day. But now trying to look for a new short level is pretty tough. So just watch out for this gap, kind of resistance area. Jimmy, what's going on, man? Intel and AMD? Absolutely. Yeah, so AMD was going to be on the orb list this morning, and I realized it was an old rumor that Intel was going to buy them out. And I don't know how true the rumor is. But right now it's been working through this pitchfork, right? At the top end of it, stayed in this channel, basically broke through the median line, pivoted here, gave you a nice up move back to the median line, then back down, volumetric support, back up through the median line. Now this volumetric level here is becoming support. So I don't know, maybe look for a little move back and then maybe a push back to the upside. So Intel's a tricky little guy to trade. Now AMD is a little bit more fun because it can move and give you some good option strategies. So obviously it didn't gap up the way we wanted it to, but it is still kind of chopping around here at the bottom of this pitchfork level. It did break through this trend line here. You can see where there, breakout kind of failed, but it's still holding up pretty well, and it's hanging on to this pitchfork. So I would look to see if we get a pivot here and see if we could push potentially up through this this level. Which may be a wave 4, right? So I had 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, 4, and then possibly down. So look for a pivot, see if you can get through this reaction line here up to the median line at 25, and then back down. So it's kind of the general look of it. What else we got? Prayer Kid, how's it going, man? Awesome job today, man. You crushed it as always. Merritt, what's going on? How do you determine a strike price used for straddle? I personally just use in the money with the at the money stuff. So for AMD, if I'm going to do a straddle, just depending on where you're at, right? If I'm expecting a big move, right? Now it's hard. You can't do it before earnings. Sometimes you can, but you got to calculate how much you think it's going to move based on earnings. And trust me, it's priced in to the implied volatility of earnings. And then once that vol drops, that's why you got to always check your implied volatility before you do a straddle. Okay, so but for the most part, once you get to a point where you think it's going to pivot and move, right? So ideally, where wave 3, wave C, or wave 5. If you've done your wave count, you can calculate those areas where you've got a true point of resistance or support, and you should expect a breakout, right? You can do a straddle there. And so, yeah, so just take some for AMD. It's $19. I would do the $19 straddles, or the 19.5 here. So I would do this one. 19.5, and this one on the calls, that one on the put, and boom, we've got a straddle. You can see it right there. It's cost 328. So do I think it's gonna move 328? The next couple of days? Hard to say. If it pivots here, maybe. But again, your implied volatility is gonna be going up here because you got earnings coming up pretty soon. So you can see here, the implied volatility is starting to creep up. So you just got to be careful of that. Especially you don't want to do straddles and earnings unless you just know it's gonna blow it out. Right? If you did it on Netflix for earnings this time, you'd have lost money. Yeah, Jimmy, IBM up $8. So let's see. It's this is just one to look at right here. That's a huge move for IBM. If the market is weak tomorrow, it's definitely worth looking for a reversal. But it's going to be gapping up to this 131 level, right? And so where's 131? So as big as it is, it's gapping. It's going to gap up into the cloud, right? It's also going to gap up into a pitchfork. I think is that a top, or let me see what I've got here. I had a couple pitchforks on this thing. Looks like a top. Sorry it's so sloppy, but yeah, so I had a bigger top right here. So it's gapping up right into some major resistance, right? If for some reason it could power through that, which I doubt because IBM's just a dog, you know, here you have a gap here at 137.15. So I mean, I really don't expect it to move another $8 tomorrow. If anything, I would expect it to reverse. Because it's got all this, you got cloud resistance right here, you've got pitchfork resistance, so I would look to do a 15 orb to the downside, but you just got to watch the price action if it takes you up. I mean, you got so much resistance here. You've got even the 200 moving average is right there at, at 137. So to think it could fill the gap here, at 141 is going to be pretty tough. So, but we'll see. You never know. Price can do anything it wants to. So. Definitely something to look at and think about. Shirley, what's going on? All right, so let's take a look at what was. Okay, so we got BOXL, Boxlight. Nice little penny stock you got here, but it's perking up a little bit. You got some volume. Just watch it doesn't do the same thing it did here, right? Perks up and then reverses. Perks up, then reverses. Perks up, then reverses, right? So, so just be careful with that. So, lots of resistance right up here at the 311 area. But just trade the basically the candlesticks off of that. So, but it's it might be worth experimenting on it. It seems like it would pull back though. All in all, FSK. IPO? This is IPO. Only been in for a couple weeks. Did give you an inside week here, and then took that to the upside. Nice doji inside week. Took that up 595 all the way up to 613. And let's see. You could, guys, just so you know, you could do 15 orbs on IPOs, and then 30 on day 2 of an IPO. So here. Right, sorry, you can't short it, but here, see that first 15-minute orb? Never took it to the upside, so you don't go long there. But you could watch that level as the high of the IPO, which was 595. And again, here, it broke that inside week, 595. Not that week there, but yeah, it broke that 595 to the upside here. So you can see how much powerful those levels are on the IPOs. So that's something to look at here. But it did give you a pullback, but it does look constructive. So just just keep an eye on it there. It does look interesting. MDXJ. Sorry. MDXG. Oh wow, it looks very similar to the last one. So, basically the same type of concept. So, nice move up, nice pullback, almost a full pullback there. It's kind of moving up, and so just look here. It looks like it gave it that inside 15 minutes to close. Daily, just definitely try to get to this 394. If you could do that, you might be able to get up to the $8 range. Just watch the volume on that one. I'm gonna do 2 more. Okay, I'm gonna go Navarro and Workday. Okay, so NVRO. Nice. It's working here. Look at this. So if it can get over today's highs, and it's nice to see something green. On a big red day, right? So if we can get over this high right here, it could get constructive over this cloud, okay? And then it's got room to go all the way up to 59. Nice green month so far, and it looks like you got earnings coming up in February, at the end of February. So you're good. It could be constructive for an earnings run for you. I really like how this looks. It's a real nice move. Say it moves up, pulls back to the VWAP. So just keep an eye on that one. Looks pretty good. It's over some volumetric resistance too. So I would like to see that get some follow through for you. Like I said, that 59 makes a good target. And WDay. We looked at this one yesterday a little bit, so let's see how it's doing. Doing pretty good. Gave you a push, pulled back a little bit. Again, I would like to see if it pulls back around 166 there, and then see if it gives you another push, because that's testing those triangle levels, and then look for a push to the upside, right, to get back up to 185. I think we looked at some vertical potential there. Just look at the just watch your stochastics and your MACD and your RSI, right? They are curling over, so look to see if it retested that median line and then gets another push to the upside on workday. Zig, what's going on, man? Do you ever look at pre-market volume to determine which 15 orb or 30 orb? I used to actually just trade off of the 30 orb at the open. And as that was my technique I was working on for a while, and it worked for a little bit, then it stopped working, and then I just stopped caring because it really didn't matter. Because once you get in, once the market opens, it's gangbusters, right? So the bulls and the bears really start fighting over that 15 orb, and I really don't pay much attention to the pre-market anymore. Sometimes if I'm in a trade, I'll look for targets, right? That one Tesla trade that we did off of the 15 orb that one time, it was like 335 was their like pre-market, and then that was like our first target to get to it. It hit it, and so you could do it there. But for the most part, I don't really use it to influence on the 30 orbs there. And same with the 60 anchors. I don't really pay much attention to that either. So yeah, and a lot of times they could correspond with each other too. That's what you always want to look for. And it's hard to do on a cell phone, but if you've got a 60 anchor, right, and say the top of it is like 100, and then you've got a 15 orb that also closes at that 100 level, well, then you've got a double potential break there that could give you that extra momentum, right, that you need, because your 15 orb breaks and your hourly breaks, and then it pushes a little bit farther, so you get a little more confidence in the trade on those if you can get those. And then and so to pick the orb, I look for something that's gapping on news, right? So always earnings, that's news that it's gapping on. So IBM obviously is going to be gapping tomorrow, right? But I was looking at Google today too, right? Google and Facebook, because Google just got slapped with the European fine, and that would have worked great too on the 15 orb as well. Excuse me. All this jib jabbering. So here's your 15 orb here on Google today, right? They were getting slapped with fines from Europe, so I expected this it gapped down with the market, but also on real news too. So there's your level. There's also happened to be a volumetric level, and I like this one because it waited a little bit to get there, and it finally did it here at about 11 o'clock, right? And then really just kind of puked from there. So you had 1090 all the way down to a 20-point move on Google today off of the 15 orb. And see, I don't even care about the pre-market data. It just doesn't matter. You just want to know if it's gapping, and you want to know why it's gapping. If it's gapping with the market, it might not be as powerful. But if it's gapping because the market, if it's one of the causes of the market gapping, right, because of news or something significant like earnings, then you could look to trade that. Those are the best ones to trade for the 15-minute orbs. And it has to be liquid, and not too spready. Jordan, what's going on? NVIDIA? Yeah, let's take a look at NVIDIA. Yeah, I still got to do the charts tonight. Gosh, I got home and I thought I had plenty of time, and I was like, doing this at 7 o'clock is early. I'm not used to it, so I got to try to get home a little bit earlier and just jump right on the computer and start doing charts. So I'm going to do the charts afterward. So NVIDIA, big move down to $8. This has been an interesting situation. It's been hard to really tell what it's doing in terms of Elliott wave. Definite reversal today. A nice pivot here. So if this were wave 5, this could be ABC. ABC could be done, and then we could be working on a down move right here. So it's really tough to tell with NVIDIA. It was over this volumetric level the other day, and now it's below it. And so at this point, I'm losing a little bit of confidence in the long. But if we keep this count that we had with 1, 2, 3, 4, it actually looks pretty good. As long as it stays over this wave 1 top of 138, you could expect a reversal back. So definitely want to keep an eye on if we can see another pivot back to the upside. If we get over 151 again, maybe even tomorrow, in the market starts to get strong again, then we'll look for that wave 5 push back upside. So look for 151, 151 and a half. Tomorrow for a potential long. And I don't know how old my Roku trade was. I might be able to get another day trade in tomorrow in the Robinhood account. And that looks like a good one. Let's look at Vale. Still looking good. We've been watching this one. it's kind of pitchfork right here, hit some volumetric resistance, pivot here. It's got to stay over this 1392 to kind of stay this bullish range. But like I said, it could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe A, B, C or something. It could push up 5 to get you back up to like this 15 level to test the pitchfork median line. Thank you, Leon. Chris, what's going on? Oh, sorry, I typed in your name. Sorry, I got distracted by the last one. Tesla. Chris, man, you should get your own ticker. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, it's a Tesla. Oh, here's what I'm thinking on Tesla. Obviously, amazingly enough, gapped right to the median line and then puked, right? So, and even went below this volumetric level, too. So Tesla's not looking good. But not surprised if they push it down before earnings. And then, the Elon Musk show is going to be, he puts on a show. I mean, that last time when two earnings ago, where he they missed on everything. Like he's like, yeah, I'm burning through cash. Oh, and they're like cheering him and all that stuff. He's like, yeah, I can't. My cars are blowing up. Yeah, and then yeah, smoke weed. Yeah, I mean, it's just like didn't matter what he said. Like it just kept on going up. So Tesla's always the funnest one to watch on earnings. But let's see here what I want to show you. On the daily, just on the Bollinger Bands, like one of my favorite setups is when it closes below the lower BB, and you can see it did that here, right? And then it gave you a nice. It took a while, you had to be patient, right? But it finally went to the upside, and so here and did it here too. Closed below, pushed to the upside. It hasn't closed below this lower Bollinger Band yet, so it leads me to believe that with this pointing down is that there's still more downside in it, right? And why not be at this this pitchfork bottom, right? And so. Oh yeah, cool. So Clayton, nice. Yeah. Vail, another Brazilian one too. So they're good ones to look at. So nice. Anywho, so I think more downside potential for Tesla. Just watch out because your premiums are gonna start going up because they have earnings at the end of the month. So BH, you made a close Starbucks calls last week. Did the wave count? Did the wave count also correct or something else? Just trying to understand. No, man. Yeah. So I mean, it was fine. It just, I'm not a swing trader, right? I did the challenge because I was challenged with it, by you guys in the room, and so I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, we could do this, right? No problem. And then I'm used to like today, like Facebook. It's like, well, I'd rather make 20% in 5 minutes than wait to make 20% in 10 days, right? But it's a challenge, and so I'm doing a little bit more less time frame here because it's what I'm good at. And then but with this, you look at it and the wave count's good, right? I mean, it really never broke the wave count. What was bothering me is that we were right in the trade, right? Because we got in here after the Goldman Sachs downgrade, and they handed it to us, and it just chopped around here, and the wave count's fine. It's just the way it chopped around. It's like I'm up $2 and like I'm flat on my options, and it's like I got to get out, right? And so that's why I started talking about verticals, and I wanted to do verticals for the challenge, call spreads or put spreads. And I know a lot of folks that are here don't have the ability to do that because they don't have margin accounts or haven't been trading options long enough. So I'm hoping after we get to $50,000 on this challenge that we're able to do some more exotic option trades. Like so today I did Goldman Sachs right on the. So yeah, anyway, it looks good. I mean, it looks like it could go up, right? So I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we'll see what it does. It might push up, or I could have that count slightly wrong. But what I did Goldman Sachs today, and that's working out pretty well. So hit a reaction line, and I wanted to see it kind of pivot and come back into the pitchfork range. So I did a put spread on this one, and I'm looking at to get to below. I wanted to fill the gap at 180, so I just went up a little bit to 182.50 just to get partially into the gap. And I think I got those through February. I tweeted it out today. I can't remember, February or March. And I don't know, I've got it pulled up. We'll pull it up here, see where I've got it. Yeah, I've got the February's. So I've got these two guys here. So if it ggets under 182.5, in the next couple weeks, it's a $1,000 trade, right? So it looks pretty interesting. So I think it could. I think it wants to fill this gap first before it does anything else. And I've labeled it to, A. This could be zigzag A. B. I know you're supposed to trade a C, but I was like, let me go for the gap fill on this. So we'll see. So yeah, I should have done. Would have liked to have done verticals on the Starbucks one. What else we got? Matt, let's look at Target. Justin, what's going on, man? Gave you some props today for your inside 15 analysis. Let's look at Target before we get going. Then I gotta get going. It's 8 o'clock. And I'll tweet out all the charts and stuff later. Yeah, so Target's crazy, man. It's I was gonna tweet it out the other day, and I was like, "This is too. I can't even make a decision on it, right? Because I have this dual clouds, right? It's like in resistance right now, and then it's in support right now, and going right into resistance. So for the mid BB, it was pretty much rejected by the 50-day moving average. So it's really tough to say which way this thing's gonna go, but it is worth watching. There is a huge gap right here too from earnings that it's approaching. So if it can start to get through that, it would look very interesting. In general, though, let's just get off all the garbagey indicators there and just kind of take a look. Pitchfork wise, we had $90, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, 4. So it might be just finishing up a wave 4 before it pushes down again. So hard to say. It's right at this volumetric level too. This key volumetric level here, this 69.70 level. So if it gets below 69, I would start getting kind of bearish on it. So to finish your wave 5. So let me take that, activate text note, and move that over here. So it could be working on that. So when I activate A 3 A B C here. So there you go. So it looks like it might be getting bearish if it can get under 69. So that's it. So anyway, guys, appreciate everybody. Hope you have a good evening, an awesome trading day tomorrow, and I'll put out some ideas tonight for you guys to take a look at later. So have a good night. Be safe. Remember your risk first. Before jumping in a trade, and then preserve your profits and limit your losses. Okay, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.